This is the continuation of Luminous by Sokka's first fangirl on AO3. This is Chapter 13, titled Ploymus Mountain. Link's hair was pulled back in a hasty braid, but it made it easier to tuck it under the Zora helm. Apparently, it had been a gift from Dorephan long ago, after Link killed a Lynel plaguing the area with Mipha. The armor itself was handcrafted by Mipha, a Zora tradition. Their princesses proposed with armor, intended to show for their future husbands, as well as their desire to keep him safe. It fit like a glove, and, although no memories hit him, Link felt a rush of love and grief when he first put it on. Mipha must have put so much work into this, he thought. He wondered how she got his measurements so exactly. Stolen one of his tunics? He doubted she'd asked him for one. Unless the proposal wasn't a surprise, he'd have to ask someone, unless, by some miracle, he remembered it first. The Zora Greaves finished off the outfit. All of it was deep blue, decorated with silver armor. All enchanted to help him swim up waterfalls, swim more swiftly, hold his breath longer, keep him warm in the water, and even help him attack more strongly in water. It was beautiful and impressive work, and exactly what he'd need to reach Ploymus Mountain. Sidon was waiting outside his room. How odd to have a bedroom of his own, not borrowed or rented, but his own, and smiled at the sight of him. "Perfect," Sidon said, giving him a thumbs up. "Are you ready?" Link nodded, returning the thumbs up with a smile. Sidon's grin widened. "Then let's go, brother. We shall defeat Ruta as one." The servants and guards they passed all whispered or looked solemn and worried. When they reached the throne room, Dorephan was talking to a guard whose armor was more elaborate than the others. "That will be all for now, Baz," he said. "If you will return to your post now, we will speak again later." Baz bowed, then threw Link a quick smile and left. Dorephan looked at Sidon and Link and sighed. "I wish I didn't have to send you, boys," he said. "But I trust you. I know you can do this." "Thank you, Father," Sidon said. "Thank you," Link echoed. There was a glimmer of worry in Dorephan's golden eyes, but he smiled valiantly and didn't protest as they descended the stairs of the palace into the domain. Link and Sidon walked in silence until they reached the east bridge. "I will wait at the reservoir," Sidon reminded him. "Please, promise me you will not engage the Lynel in battle. Sneak around, avoid its range. Flee if you must. Just be careful." Once upon a time, Sidon only stood as tall as Link's knee. Now, Link stood as tall as Sidon's hip. He stared up at his brother-in-law, so strange and yet so familiar. That earnest gaze was exactly the same. "I promise," Link said, and he meant it. No fighting. He'd save that for Ruta. A part of Link said he could take on a Lynel. He could take on 10. And maybe that was true 100 years ago. But now? Now, Link wasn't so sure. Besides, he didn't think he could handle making Sidon worry. A guard with opalescent scales bowed as they passed her at the end of the bridge. Sidon walked with Link to the nearest waterfall, and they lingered together by the water's edge. The silence dragged on, somewhat tense and terribly awkward. Sidon wrung his hands, glancing at Link worriedly. "I suppose this is it," Sidon said softly. "Guess so," Link agreed. He smiled at Sidon and prayed he looked reassuring. "Come on, don't give me that look. I'll be fine." "Of course," Sidon said. He didn't move an inch. Impulsively, Link threw his arms around Sidon in a tight hug, and Sidon clung to him, his sharp claws digging into Link's arms. "I'll be all right," Link promised. "I'll catch up to you soon, okay?" "Yes, I know you will." Sidon took a deep breath and pulled away. His smile wavered, but he struck the same pose as before. "We will be victorious." "That's the spirit," Link said. He waded into the water and stood at the base of the waterfall. His reflection wavered in the water, bordering on being a blue and silver blur. The idea of swimming up, it left him dizzy. How was he even supposed to do this? He'd have to learn fast. Link held his breath and stepped into the waterfall, biting back a gasp at the strong rush of water. Yet the pressure didn't hurt. It rolled down him like it was merely a drizzle. The armor, he realized. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was memory. Either way, Link knew what to do. He raised his arms above his head, hands lightly crossed like he was about to dive. He jumped and, just like that, he was soaring up the waterfall. He laughed incredulously, sputtering as water got in his mouth, nose, and eyes. It was surreal. It was like the water carried him, ushering him along. At the top of the waterfall, Link soared into the air, and he scrambled for the Sheikah slate. A quick click summoned his paraglider, and Link grasped it, floating in the air. The rain felt even colder up here, but, thanks to the armor, it didn't bother him. Elated, adrenaline rushing through him from that impossible swim, Link looked over his shoulder at the domain, glowing through the gloom. He barely remembered a thing, but this had been his home once. His home, Mipha's home. He would not let anything happen to it. He turned towards Ploymus Mountain, and he could see a dark shape pacing atop it. The Lynel, no doubt. Link landed lightly on the soaked grass and put the paraglider away. Deposits of luminous stone shone like blue stars. Puddles were ankle-deep and growing every minute. There were strange, coral-like plants littering the mountain. Strange, yes, but beautiful. From this vantage point, he could see the reservoir and a hulking thing in the water, shining with red light and spewing an endless fountain of water. Vah Ruta, he realized. Shaped like an elephant, elaborately designed, a giant in every sense. Those lights were not meant to be red. They were meant to be... Ruta's trunk rose gently, granting Link and Mipha a stunning view of Zora's domain. The golden sunset almost washed out Ruta's blue glow. Mipha, as always, tutted over the gash on Link's arm, minor as it was. That silver bokoblin had been fast. "Come on," she said. "Let's get that fixed." "I'm fine," Link signed. "That was not a request, dear friend." He knew better than to test her when she had that stubborn gleam in her eyes. That was the look she got in battle, a look that promised she wouldn't back down. Link rolled his sleeves up, and Mipha's hands, hovering just over his skin, began to glow, blue as a summer sky. Her magic felt cool, almost relaxing. It was a pleasant sensation. The glow of Mipha's magic and the shine of the sun blended together, reflecting off her scales, highlighting her eyes. "You're beautiful," Link thought, not for the first time, but he didn't dare say it. "You've always been so reckless," she said softly, eyes on his swiftly healing arm. "Right from when you were a child, you were always getting yourself hurt at every turn, even back then, but I was always willing to heal you. I wanted to. I hated to see you in pain." The wound vanished. Mipha lowered her hands and looked out at the domain. "Link," she said, "if Calamity Ganon returns, what can we really do? We don't seem to know much about him." "We don't," Link agreed. They had legends and fairy tales, but they were vague at best. They spoke of mayhem and destruction, utter devastation, but they weren't clear on Ganon's actual powers. Some legends call him a man. Others called him a beast. Most stories agreed he was the incarnation of hate and rage itself, the biggest monster of them all, a pig-shaped demon escaped from the sacred realm, mindless, but unspeakably powerful. His only weaknesses were the Master Sword and Hylia's magic. Once, Link asked Fi what exactly Ganon was, and she agreed that he was the living incarnation of pure malice, evil to his very core. Link looked up at the sky, and far up above, he could just about see a thin shape, flying through the air at a sedate pace. One of Hyrule's dragons. This one was green, as far as he could tell. From such a distance, it was hard to say for sure if the dragon was green or some shade of blue. It nearly blended in with the sky sometimes. Unlike Farash, Dinral, and Nadra, this dragon did not guard a sacred spring or fly through one region. This dragon soared above all of Hyrule, eternally circling the kingdom. It flew so high that no one had ever seen any distinct features. If it had powers like the other three, no one knew. If it was male or female, no one knew. No one had even given the dragon a proper name, just titles. Hyrule's Guardian, Wild Dragon, the Sentry, Skyward. Link nudged Mipha and pointed up. She glanced up and smiled, hands folded on her lap. "Well, hello there, our mysterious friend," she said softly. "He deserves a name, poor thing." It took a few attempts, awkwardly clearing his throat and keeping his gaze firmly upwards, but Link managed to speak out loud. "You think it's a boy?" "I do," Mipha said. "What makes you so sure? The other guardian dragons are female." "Oh, call it a feeling," Mipha said with a wink. Link flushed and looked back up. The dragon was flying further away, little more than a speck. "Well, why don't you name him?" Mipha hummed thoughtfully. "I'll have to give it some thought," she said. "He deserves a good name." "I'm sure you'll pick the perfect one." "I appreciate your faith in me," she said, more seriously than Link expected. The teasing tones were gone, and Link turned to her. Mipha looked solemn. "Link," she said, holding his gaze, "I want you to know that if Ganon returns, no matter what he is, no matter what comes our way, no matter how difficult this battle might get, if anyone tries to do you harm, I will heal you." Her eyes blazed, her tone was firm. There was a sudden fire in her, and Link felt pinned under her gaze, unable to look away, hardly able to breathe. "I hope you know," Mipha continued, "that I will always protect you." Sudden hope in his heart, Link nodded. "You too," he signed. "I'll protect you too." Mipha smiled. Zora couldn't blush, but she looked down at her lap, hands tightly clasped together. She took a deep breath, fidgeting with uncharacteristic awkwardness. "I was thinking," her voice grew quieter, shyer. "Yes?" Link prompted when she fell silent. Hesitantly, Mipha lay her hand on top of his. "I was thinking, perhaps we could spend some time together," she said. "Just the two of us." Link could be oblivious. He'd freely admit that, at least to himself, but he wasn't stupid. He knew what she was asking. Link turned his hand over to intertwine their fingers, blushing to the tips of his ears. "Yes," he said, grinning like an idiot. Mipha lit up like the sun, beaming at him, and squeezed his hand. The rain continued, and Link blinked rapidly, wiping at his eyes. That was Mipha. They'd been there, right out there on Ruta. They'd arranged to go on a date right there, and Vah, the Master Sword, she had a name, a spirit. "Where are you?" Link wondered. Only, of course, Vah wasn't there to answer him. There'd been a fight against a group of silver bokoblins out near Gapanga, and Link and Mipha had escaped with only minor wounds, and no villagers had been harmed. Link had already been delighted with that outcome, working up the nerve to try and talk to Mipha, to tell her how he felt. She went and beat him to it. "I miss you," he thought, his heart twisting. Ruta loomed over the dam, spewing that endless rain. Mipha was gone. "I'm sorry," Link sighed, eyes stinging. He turned toward Ploymus Mountain, steeling himself. He had a Lynel to steal from. The Lynel was massive and horrifying. It had a flaming red mane like a lion, the torso of a man, and the body of a horse. Its biceps were easily as thick as Link's waist. Link snapped a photo with the Sheikah slate and ducked behind a nearby tree. Stupid, perhaps, but he couldn't resist. One more photo for the compendium, and he'd rather get a photo when it didn't notice him. Now, the shock arrows. The top of Ploymus Mountain was mostly flat, but some hills rose up here and there. Some sections of grass looked charred. Monster parts littered the ground, including a bokoblin arm. Well, Muzu warned him that Lynels attacked other monsters, but the arm looked chewed on. Link shuddered, leaning against the tree. Right then, he definitely wasn't fighting that thing. But where were the damn shock arrows? He peeked out again, keeping a wary eye on the Lynel. It paced slowly around, occasionally snorting and looking around with narrowed eyes, always on the hunt. When its back was turned, Link darted out from behind the tree and ran to the nearest hill. The Lynel growled, but didn't seem to spot him. Surely he'd be under attack if it had. Crouching, he moved slowly. 3 shock arrows stuck out of a tree, right in front of him. Link didn't waste time. He ran as fast as he could, practically on the tips of his toes, trying to be as quiet as possible. He nabbed the arrows and struggled to climb the tree, climbing as high as he dared and looking around. A quiver of shock arrows lay on the ground. It was so full that some spilled out. The Lynel carried a second quiver on his back. He needed that quiver. He could tiptoe around the mountain, picking up stray arrows from dirt and trees, or he could grab an entire quiver. But that abandoned quiver was not hiding in the shade of a tree or tucked against a hill. It lay out in the open. The Lynel continued to pace. Now, Link told himself, now, you idiot, move, do it now. He dropped from the tree and ran with all his might. As soon as he touched the quiver, the Lynel spotted him and roared, rearing on its hind legs. It ran towards him on all fours, snarling, and Link sprinted for the edge of the mountain. Gotta get out of here. Go, go, go. The Lynel fired. The shock arrow hit the ground in an explosion of sparks, missing Link by an inch. A second arrow soared overhead, flying off the mountain. Link pulled the quiver onto his back, unfolded his paraglider, and leaped. The last arrow was so close that sparks hit his cheek and ear. The Lynel roared in fury, and Link let out a mad bark of laughter as he soared away to safety. Well, he'd kept his promise to Sidon. He didn't fight it, just outran it. Maybe he'd keep that last part to himself. There was, oddly enough, a sleeping area at the dam, a miniature guest room of sorts, decked out with a double bed and a seating area. Link didn't have much time to ponder it. As soon as Sidon spotted him landing, the prince ran and scooped him up into a tight hug, spinning Link around in a circle. Link couldn't help but laugh, arms pinned in place so tightly he couldn't even return the hug. "Oh, you marvel!" Sidon cried. "You got an entire quiver, and you're unharmed." "I'm okay," Link promised. Sidon set him down, beaming. "Now then," Sidon said, hands on Link's shoulders, "we shall appease Ruta. I will be swimming, so I will need you to ward off Ruta's attack while we get in close. Soldiers report that she shoots ice. As soon as we're close enough, you can swim up the water and shoot the orbs on her shoulders. I will catch you, I promise, and I will be as swift as possible." Sidon struck his pose and added, "You will find I am unstoppable in the water." And once those orbs were shot, once Ruta was calmed, Link could get inside. Free the 4 divine beasts. Do not fight alone. Link adjusted his bow and quiver of shock arrows and pulled up the Cryonis rune on the slate. "I'm ready," he said. "Let's do this." Sidon dived into the water and Link jumped after him, climbing onto his back. Sidon glanced back at him and grinned. "I can carry you this time," he said. He began to swim out to Ruta. She seemed even more gigantic up close. Link held on to Sidon and couldn't help but snicker at the sheer insanity of it all. "Hylia," he said, resting his forehead against Sidon's tail. "I'm going into battle with you. Mipha would kill me." Sidon laughed. "Don't worry," he said. "I would tell her it was my idea." As soon as they got close, giant blocks of ice surrounded Ruta, and she bellowed. Eyes narrowed, Link lifted the slate. Sure enough, the ice glowed on the screen. He could shatter it if he was fast enough. He would be fast enough. He wouldn't fail this time. "Bring it on, Ganon," he thought. "Brace yourself," Sidon said, low and tense. As if Ruta heard them, the ice flew at them. Mipha had been here 100 years, alone. No, not quite alone. There was the beast, that thing, Ganon's creature. She called it Waterblight Ganon. It was mostly dormant, hiding within Ruta's main control unit, but sometimes it emerged to pace and shriek, haunting Ruta's halls. Ruta, her poor friend, was coated in puddles of malice. The poisonous smell permeated the air. Those disgusting eyes of malice peered down from the ceiling, dangling from doorways. It made Mipha sick. 100 years ago, the water blight shot out of the main control unit as soon as Mipha touched it, stabbing her in the back. She'd barely managed to heal herself, frantically sending an SOS signal as she attempted to ward the water blight off. She didn't even have her light skill trident. The calamity had arrived so suddenly, her only thought had been to reach Ruta. There was no time to run to the palace and get her favorite trident. She had a spare spear she kept in Ruta and a knife, as well as her own magic. As she fought, she heard other SOS signals begin. Mipha knew, deep in her bones, that her fellow champions were facing their own blights. How were they faring? Better than her? Worse? Were they dying? Link and Zelda, had they made it to Castletown? Were Father and Sidon safe? The water blight turned all the water in the room to ice, which she couldn't manipulate. It attacked so quickly that Mipha managed to heal one wound only to receive 3 more. And then, finally, that thing's long reach and speed served its purpose. The water blight's glowing spear flew across the room, stabbing Mipha straight through. Link, she thought as it flew towards her. Father, Sidon. Link, Father, Sidon. Link, Father, Sidon. She shut her eyes, unable to watch her death flying towards her. I love you, she whispered, and she was gone. Mipha did not expect to wake again, but she did, trapped within Ruta. Unable to even go onto Ruta's trunk or head, she could only roam the halls and control room. But she could hear Ruta bellowing. She could hear screams outside. Ruta attacking her people. She could sense, from a great distance, her friends, Daruk, Urbosa, and Rivali, all trapped as she was. They could not talk, but they could sense each other. It was a threat of sanity to grasp at. But Link, oh, Link, where was he? Where was her husband? She could not sense him. Was he dead too? Dead and moved on to the sacred realm? And Zelda? Her spirit shone in Hyrule Castle, alive, but just as trapped as the champions, locked in battle with Ganon himself. It took a week for Mipha to sense a change, a spark. Link. His spirit. At first, Mipha's heart sank, certain he was dead after all, a ghost trapped somewhere like the rest of them. But no. No, he was like Zelda, alive, yet his presence felt faint somehow, like he had 1 foot in the living world and 1 foot in the sacred realm. Live, Mipha thought, wishing she could send him all her love, wishing she could reassure him. Live, my heart, my light, you must live. Live, Link, she found herself whispering out loud again and again. Live. Over the years, his spirit grew stronger, firmer. Alive, gloriously alive, but static. Something was off, though Mipha couldn't say what. Was he trapped too? He was on the Great Plateau, and he didn't move. Until he did. Until he suddenly started moving 100 years later. Mipha braced herself for the water blight's rage, expecting deafening shrieks and mindless attacks at thin air, but it stayed within the control unit. Although Ruta rained and bellowed, she'd done so weeks before Link started moving again. Ganon doesn't know, Mipha realized and burst out laughing. She laughed until she cried, hugging herself. Link was alive and Ganon didn't know. Ganon's presence grew stronger as Zelda's weakened. All of Hyrule remained in grave danger. But there was hope. That wonderful, beautiful spark. Link was alive. And now there was a change in the air yet again. Ruta bellowed and began to attack something outside. 2 somethings, in fact. 2 spirits that Mipha knew as well as her own, though she could sense one much more strongly than the other. King Rome had not been entirely wrong when he declared the champions had a unique bond, after all. Sidon, her brave, kind-hearted little brother. Link, her love, her brave knight. Mipha raised her head and smiled. New tears filled her eyes. joy instead of sorrow, hope instead of despair. "Oh, my dearest loves," she whispered. She wanted to see them, damn it all. Curse Ganon to the very depths of hell, she wanted to see her family. Sidon, how tall was he now? And Link, what had happened to him? Mipha could not rush outside to see them, but she could feel them, the strength of their spirits, their determination. They were here to stop Ruta's rampage. But more than that, Link was here to free Ruta. "Ruta, old friend," Mipha said, "I believe this is it. Today we will both be freed. And then maybe, just maybe, she could be with her husband again." Thanks so much to anybody who listens to this. As always, I'll leave a link down in the description for the original fic over on AO3. If you like this, please leave kudos and comments for the original author over there. I will be back with chapter 14 whenever I get that finished.